Hello, everyone. We will get started shortly. I'm just keeping an eye on the waiting room to make sure that I can let people in. So we will get started pretty soon here. As a reminder, if you could just please make sure that your microphone is muted. If you do have questions throughout the presentation, you're welcome to unmute yourself and ask a question. But if you aren't planning on speaking, if you could just please make sure that your microphone is muted. We'll get started here in just a few minutes.
I got some sanitizer. There you go. There we go. That's what I need.
All right, everyone. It is 1:01, so I think we are still expecting some people. There are a few people who have registered who haven't joined the meeting yet, so we will give a little bit of time. But really quickly, I just wanted to introduce myself. If we haven't met before, I'm glad that you're able to join us for this training for the Community Impact Grant application. My name is Cory Stutes. I'm the Program and Operations Director here at United Way of Licking County. We're coming up on 1 year anniversary for me. So this is actually my second time around with the Community Impact Grant cycle. So several of you I have worked with in the past. And some of you, if you're new, again, welcome. So the goal for today is to give a background of what the Community Impact Grant is. If you're a returning applicant, if you've been a longtime funded partner, you're going to be familiar with this. But it's always good to have a refresher. It's always nice to also celebrate the triumphs of our funded partners from the previous year. And then we will dig right into the application and kind of go through that process. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them throughout. You're welcome to either type them in the chat box, or if you do want to unmute yourself. We shouldn't have a terribly large group today. I think we're expecting around 20 people. So, if you want to unmute yourself and ask a question, that's totally fine. That doesn't bother me. Or like I said, you can type it in the chat box and I will address it then. So hopefully everybody should be seeing my screen. You should see a slide that says Community Impact Grant Training 2023 cycle. I see some heads nodding. That's a good sign. And if I do pause, please excuse me. I'm just trying to make sure I'm letting everybody in from the waiting room. So let's see. I see a lot of familiar faces. I won't make everybody, a lot of times we have a bad habit, maybe not a bad habit, but we have a habit of being in meetings and then everybody sort of goes around and introduces themselves. So I'm not going to put anybody on the spot, but it is good to see some familiar faces. And there are a few faces of people that I don't know that I've met in person. So it's great to see you as well. Also, I will say that this presentation is being recorded. So we will put it on our community impact page on our website. So if you want to go back and reference something, or if a colleague wished to join and they weren't able to, you can direct them to that recording and reference anything that was said. So let's go ahead and actually we'll just get right into it here. So I do have a little few slides that I thought we would kind of go over before we get into the application. So let's talk about the previous year's cycle. So many of you are representing current funded partners for the 2022 year. last year, we were able to award $1 million through the Community Impact Grant process. We awarded those dollars to 44 funded programs spread across 23 agencies. In order to do that, it took us approximately 20 volunteers. The volunteers of the United Way are literally our backbone. We aren't able to accomplish what we do without them. So we are very appreciative of our volunteers. And this is one of our largest volunteer opportunities where we really utilize hours from our community. So we're very grateful to have been able to have those volunteers help us throughout a few different committees. This was the first time that we went fully online with the application process. There had been sort of a trial run with a extension funding for 2021, but this was the first fully online grant cycle. In the 2022 funding year, there were 2 programs that were funded for the very first time and 1 entirely new funded partner. So we were very happy to welcome Action for Children into the United Way of Licking County family. They provide really wonderful services, very, very important services. And so we're happy to partner with them to expand their services into Licking County. So what to know for the upcoming cycle? Is there anybody, actually just before I say, you can raise your hand or put your hand up emoji. Is there anybody who has either not applied for community impact in the past or is completely unfamiliar or sort of unfamiliar? Let's see, too many. And like I said, most of you are familiar. So if you aren't familiar, this will be good. If you are familiar, it's always good to have a refresher. But any applicant for the Community Impact Grant, they must represent a 501c3 nonprofit agency or come from a division of government. The funding is provided to programs rather than just general agencies. So that does mean that an agency can apply for funding for more than one program, and that does happen. If you are an agency who pretty much just does one thing, then we do ask that you set it up as that being, a program of your agency. It's not just general funding to your agency. The programs address one of 3 priority areas. These areas were identified by the community throughout our community blueprint process. So these are issues that I would say we all can agree are relevant to our community, but these were actually identified by community members. And those areas are children, youth, and families, behavioral health, and poverty and homelessness. Funding will be provided throughout 2023 in 12 monthly payments. Generally, those payments are around the middle of the month, around the 15th of each month. And so this is actually our 2023 cycle. I know it's a little confusing because we're in 2022. I'm constantly thinking always about the next year ahead and writing 2023, even though we're in 2022. So if that gets you confused a little bit, it's okay. It happens to me too. But this is actually the 2023 Community Impact Grant. And a few important dates to remember. So obviously today, June 2nd, was our first grant training. June 6th, this coming Monday, that is the grant application opening. So the grant will officially be open online on Monday. There will be another applicant training on June 13th. And if you attended this training, you're more than welcome to attend the next training. It will be the same content, but it might be nice to kind of get a chance to look at the application for yourself, really dig into it, and you might have a different perspective or some different questions. So you are absolutely welcome to join that second training. You will need to make sure that you're registered for that training if you do wish to attend. And the registration link is the same. You probably saw when you registered for this one that you chose which date you wanted. So you can go back and do that again. That link is on our website, which is unitedwaylc.org. You can choose the Community Impact tab, and you can register for the June 13th training on there. July 1st is the grant application deadline. All grants must be submitted by 5:00 p.m. On July 1st. This year, we will have a bit more time for the site visits and the grant evaluation. If you remember last year, our grant window was in August, throughout the month of August. And then that really only gave us September to conduct site visits and evaluations. And for our community impact volunteers and for myself, that was quite a short window of time. We were coordinating site visits across 45 programs with 15 community impact committee members, and it was quite an interesting challenge. So this year we have a bit more time. So we'll be scheduling site visits and evaluations primarily in July and August, but we will be able to also utilize early September. So if you are a school-based program, we definitely want to work with your schedule, and also we understand it might be a crazy time of year, but we wanted to give some time into the school year after the start of school. Now, with that said, if your program dates don't align with this window, don't worry. We can still meet with you as a program director or as a program representative, and the committee can still ask you questions, still interview you, and that won't negatively impact your grant application. But ideally, they do like to see your program in action and kind of get a feel for it that way. It's really beneficial for them to be able to do that. So again, I really appreciate everyone's cooperation with me on that last year and providing dates. It was a little bit of a shift from the previous way that we did things with the panel reviews and that kind of stuff. So I do really appreciate everyone's cooperation on that. And then these are some sort of tentative dates, but tentatively this fall, October or November, will be when our board will formally approve all of the funding recommendations, and those award letters will go out. So we do want to get those award letters to you a couple of months before the end of the year. I know depending on what your fiscal year is like, you might be coming up with a budget. If you're on a split fiscal year, you might be coming up on your 6-month kind of evaluation of where you are. So we want to make sure to get those letters out to everyone in enough time so that you can plan for the next year, because the first payments will go out in January of 2023. If you'll remember, we shifted from a split fiscal year to a calendar fiscal year. So that's why those payments are now aligned with the calendar year. So it's just something to be aware of for your own budgeting and for your own planning, sort of the cycle of how that goes. Do I have any questions so far on that? Again, you're welcome to unmute yourself if you do have a question, or you can type it in the chat. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually dig right into the grant. So in order to access the online portal where you will apply, you can go to our website, which is unitedwaylc.org/community-impact. If you go to unitedwaylc.org, there is also a tab at the top where you can click community impact, and it will take you to this page. This has the dates that you need to keep in mind. Also, you'll see the registration for the applicant training if you wanted to sign up for that one on the 13th. Additionally, there will be a few documents on here that you will need to download for the grant application. Those will be available by Monday when it's time to actually download those. And that includes our statement of agreement with a few addendums, including our diversity, equity, and inclusion statement, counterterrorism compliance form, and the supplemental fundraising activity form. And then we do also have a promotional release on there. Part of the grant application, as you'll see in just a second, is that we do ask for success stories and stories from some of your clients or volunteers, and any names or any individuals that are identified in those stories, we do need promotional releases for. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. There are some notes on confidentiality and that kind of thing. So we'll talk about that when we get to that section. But you'll see those forms here available for download. And I will also say that with the statement of agreement, there are 2 versions. There's one for non-government agencies and one for government agencies. So if you are a division of government, you would choose the one for government agencies. Everyone else will choose non-government. So in order to access the grant and sign up to be able to do that, it's all through EC Impact. So right here where it says sign in or create an account on EC Impact, you would click here, If you're a returning user, you can sign in with your credentials. If you have never applied for a community impact grant through United Way of Licking County specifically, then you would create a new EC Impact account. If you have used EC Impact through a United Way other than United Way of Licking County, unfortunately, you won't be able to use those credentials in this EC Impact portal. This is unique to our United Way office, so it doesn't transfer between United Ways. So if you've never applied for funding through United Way of Licking County, then you will need to create a new account. So I'm going to go ahead and put in my password. And when you come in, so this is showing previous applications that I have applied for. If you've applied for anything else, whether it was Community Impact 2022, if you've applied for anything else, EFSP is showing on this, then you would see those here. I have already gone into the current grant on this account, but when you first sign in, you will see over here where it will say Request Grant Application. Along the left-hand side in this apply and report box. So you'll click on that and then you'll be able to choose Community Impact Funding Application 2023. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up. For those of you who are returning users, this should look pretty familiar. And does everybody see this? Just also so I guess I should have verified before we got into it. So it's important to note that this application is broken sort of into two sections. So there's an agency level part of the packet, and then there are forms that are specific to each program that you're applying for. You do have to have a minimum of one program in your packet to be able to apply. And so if you look at the instructions, there are some general directions here. Funded program for 2023 shall receive funding beginning in January, ending in December 2023. Gives you the deadline, sort of a basic rundown. This part here is very important. This is where you associate your program to the application. So it says continue here. At least one program is required for this application for funding. Each program seeking funding will require creation and subsequent application specific to that program. So to add a program to this application, select it from the drop-down, or if there's no drop-down displayed, select create a new program. So if you're a returning user and you've already associated a program before in the past and you're applying for a program that's received funding in the past or that you've applied for in the past, you can select on this program, whatever it is, Cory's program. I hear they do pretty great work in Licking County. If you don't have one, then you would click here on create a new program and assign it to this form packet. So then when you do that, you're able to put in the program name. You can choose a priority area. And for the instances of this application, we have broken homelessness and poverty into two sections. So we know just what your focus is there. And then you put in other basic information. At the bottom of pretty much every screen, you'll see some of the same prompts. So there's a floppy disk symbol and it says save or complete registration. A lot of times on some of the others, you'll see where it says save and return to the previous window, or you can save without submitting, or you can cancel and return to previous page. And you'll see those controls pretty much at the bottom of every one of the windows. So I'm going to go ahead and select Cory's program, and then I'm going to assign selected program to the form packet. Okay, so now you can see once I've done that, it's added several additional forms to the application. So if you are from an organization that has a few programs that are applying for funding, you would want to do this for every program that you're requesting funding for. There really isn't a maximum amount of programs. I mean, if you're an organization that has many, many programs and they fit the criteria, you're welcome to apply. We do have some funded partners who have 4 or 5 programs that they apply for. So you will only complete these agency level forms once because those cover your agency as a whole. And then the program forms will apply to every single program that you're applying for. So let's go ahead and kind of run through some of these. I'm just going to kind of briefly go through them. A lot of the information in these is pretty straightforward. There's a lot of fill in the blank. There are some drop downs and some check boxes. So this first form is the basic overview of your organization. You would fill into your mission, how do the programs fit into your organization's mission and long-range goals. You provide your EIN number when you register, so it does autofill some of these things, EIN, street address, put in your website, all of that kind of information. And then there are a few things that you agree to as a funded partner. So one of those things is displaying the Licking County United Way of Licking County logo on your collateral. If you put out something that's a fundraising ask or anything like that, we do ask that you display the United Way logo as a funded partner. You're agreeing to provide us with success stories or testimonies. You help us on social media by sharing some of our posts and promoting what we put on social media. Prominently display that you're a funded partner, either through a window cling. I know some of you have signs as well that you put out. If you don't have a window cling or a sign or anything like that, you can always stop by and we would be happy to get you one. Sometimes those only have a specific shelf life, so we understand if they kind of could be refreshed, just let me know. That you support our fundraisers and awareness events. By becoming a funded partner, you are agreeing to conduct a campaign, an annual campaign in your organization for the United Way of Licking County. You are agreeing that you'll help us to provide speakers for any events if we need one. So sometimes we do reach out and, we really like to highlight our funded partners and the work they're doing. So I might call on somebody to say, hey, would you be interested in coming and speaking at this event? Of course, it's an opportunity for you to really celebrate the successes of your programs at that time. And then also allowing tours of facilities. Our community impact committee especially likes to do site visits. And that's one of my goals for this coming year as well, is to, now that we are kind of seeing COVID hopefully loosen, I really would like to be able to connect more with your programs and with your agencies. So don't be surprised if I give you a call and say, hey, I'm going to stop by, or I'd like to stop by, because we really want to be able to have that kind of more of a personal relationship there. And then there are a few things here, additional funding opportunities. If you would like to participate in these, you can check these. These are additional ways that we can receive funding. So you do require a City of Columbus solicitation permit for these to be able to qualify for these. Organization financial narratives. So we'll get to the attachments in a second, but this relates to information regarding your organization's budget. So again, it's asking questions about what's your current fiscal year so that we can figure out whether you're on a split year or a calendar year. Some questions related to your budget. Please explain any material changes or trends to revenue and expenses. If you have any deficits, please explain. If you're expecting changes. And then there are some questions relating to your balance sheet. So if you applied last year, you'll be familiar that rather than having a budget worksheet as part of the application, we've instead allowed you to upload your organization's budget. And then we also ask for a balance sheet and an income statement for the current year, the previous year, and the year before that. So that saved everybody a little bit of work because you're not recreating things that are already created. But then this is where you can answer some questions specific to those financial statements. And then this one, organization fiscal requirements. This is you saying, checking off, yes, we have directors and officers liability insurance, we have a whistleblower policy, et cetera, et cetera. So you're basically checking off all of these that you do relate to your organization. So the application attachments, if I were you, this is actually where I would start because as you can see, this is a little bit lengthy. So this is supplementary information that we ask for that's not, it is referenced within the application, but these are other things that we need to be able to verify. So you'll notice most recent 990, copy of your board roster, the statement of agreement, which is downloaded from the United Way website, audited financial statements, most recent operating budget, Attorney General charitable solicitations registration, 501c3 letter of determination. If you're a government agency and you're not a 501c3, or if you're not a 501c3 and you have a different designation, whatever you use to verify your tax exempt status, you can upload there. And then asks for liability insurance, D&O insurance, a client's rights policy. Not everyone will have that. If you are legally required to maintain a client rights policy, then you would upload that there. Not all of you are going to be required to have one of those. And then it asks for some other standard policies that you will upload, minutes from your board meetings, constitution and bylaws, handbook. And then here you'll see income statement for current year, previous year, and 2 years prior. So that's based on however your fiscal years are. So whatever current year you are in, if you could, you would provide your most recent or most up-to-date income statement, and then income statements for the previous year and the year before. Same for balance sheets. And that's it for what on the organization level. Really, this application is geared more toward each program since the funding is given specifically to programs. So as you can tell, really the bulk of the application is in the program section. But that's it for the organization. Now, like I said, I would start with the attachments since there are quite a few application attachments. And depending on the size of your organization, it may be a little easier or a little more difficult for you to get a hold of some of those, may require a little bit more coordination with some of your coworkers. So it would be really helpful to start there, start seeing what you need to gather, what you can provide immediately, what you might need to get from somebody else. And then you can start working in on the application. So we go to the program. It's going to be a lot of the sort of similar information, but specific to the program. So here you can select a priority area. And again, for the sake of our priorities, poverty and homelessness are one priority area, but in this application, they are broken down because we do have organizations that maybe serve specifically homelessness or specifically just poverty. So you can select what's relevant for your program. And then there are questions, describe how the program addresses the priority area selected. And you will designate what your program funding request is. I do get questions about this. What's the minimum? What's the maximum? That's based entirely on your need of your program. We fund a wide range of amounts for programs. So this is completely based on what your program's funding need is. With that said, it probably wouldn't be wise to put your entire program's budget in as this. We aren't going to fund 100% of a program. But whatever the need is that you are applying for, you can designate that. The decisions will be based on the total amount of asks as well as the total amount that's available to give out. So it doesn't guarantee that you will get what you asked for, but we do have quite a few programs who are fully funded with what they request. Time frame for program activities. So if your program is summer-based, you could put that. You could put the months, yearly. Donna, you're welcome to unmute yourself if you have a question.
This might seem like a dumb question, but up on the top where you said the poverty and homelessness for the areas were divided, what if a program actually aligns with both? I mean, because we can only click one, correct?
Yeah, so it only let you click one. If they align with both, I would choose poverty. That is the main part of the priority group. Homelessness has been a growing, it's a very present issue in our community. And so we did want to really kind of identify that because it is such a big focus and some programs are focused exclusively on that. But if you do both, really you could choose one or the other, and it's not going to impact, it's going to be, still in the same general category. It just kind of helps our committee understand.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Absolutely. Yep. Thanks for that question. Okay. And then there are some additional questions just about a summary of the program. And then indicate if approach used is evidence-based or best practice model. So some of you may belong to national organizations that have a model that you follow. This is just, or if not, you may have determined a model that's best for your own program. And this is just asking, is it evidence-based or is it a best practice model? You would determine that, or you would provide that answer. And then average length of programming for the typical client. Are they engaged in your program for a month? Are they engaged in your program for a year? Is it ongoing? Is maybe there isn't a specific time when they come in or come out of your program? It might just be an ongoing thing. So this is where you would say that. I will also say, so let me go ahead and just put something in on one of these. So if you type information into your form, then you can say, save my work and return to previous page, save my work and mark as completed. So this is what you would do if you finish every field on the form, or you can just return to overview page and that will not save it. So I'm going to say, save my work and return to previous page. So now you can see it's marked this form as in progress. So this is an easy way to see what you've started on. When you complete a form, it will turn green and it will say completed. If you haven't done anything, of course, it remains red. It says not started. Program description. This is just a few questions about your program. How will United Way funds be used to support the program? There's a brief description up here. And then there's an opportunity for any additional information that you might want to provide that's not already been covered. And now we get into some of the more specific questions. This marketing weekly donor contribution, this is actually very, very helpful information for us. There's a lot of information out of this packet that we use to take to our funders. So when we are going to workplaces to talk about a campaign, when we're reaching out to individual donors, when we're reaching out to organizations at the top level of that business, they want to know what they're investing in. By investing in United Way, they're investing in your programs, they're investing in your clients, but they want to know what is the work that this money is going to. So here's one opportunity for us to be able to tell them that. So we've broken it down into $2 per week, $5 per week, or $10 per week. So here, if you could provide examples of what that amount of funding can accomplish in your program. So for instance, $2 per week might be able to provide a lunch to a couple of kids or something, whatever it would be, or a lunch to one child every week. $5 per week might provide a backpack with school supplies for 10 kids. $10 a week could provide STI screenings for a community for the year. And of course, Ashley, that was an example that I thought of that might be wildly incorrect in terms of the cost, but you would put examples like that for whatever those programs might be. All right, and this is another very helpful piece of information for us. This is your demographics. And it is broken down. There are two of these. They are identically named. So please don't let that confuse you. This online portal will not allow us to put every column for every school district in the county. So it has to be broken down. So here you're going to put in the numbers of the individuals that you serve in your program. It is broken down by school district. So for each school district that the person resides in, you're going to be putting the information. Ideally, this is for unduplicated individuals. Sometimes that's not possible based on either confidentiality or the nature of your program. You may not be able to show information for unduplicated individuals, but ideally that is what we are hoping for. And up at the top, you'll see the target population demographics that are for the time frame from January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021. We obviously don't have data for 2022 yet because we're in the middle of 2022. If you have updated, so if you're on, if you can show what it is for a 12-month period for the most recent 12 months, if you do it that way, then you're welcome to do that. It just depends on however you are tracking your information. But what we're looking for is a year's worth of data. And if that's confusing, you're definitely welcome to reach out to me and I can explain it for you. There is going to be a little bit of an overlap just because of we also shifted our when the actual application is open. So last year it was open in the fall. This year, because of our shift to a calendar year, it's open a little bit earlier. So if there is a little bit of duplication in what you are providing on the last application to this application, don't stress about that. We just basically want to be able to see what your organization, who your organization is serving in a year, and sort of the demographics of those individuals. So this is broken down, Granville Heath, Johnstown Monroe, Lakewood, Licking Heights, and Licking Valley. And then the next one covers the other school districts, Newark, North Fork, Northridge, Southwest Licking, and then any other that are outside of Licking County, if you do provide services to anyone outside of Licking County. I will note also, I realized on the one last year, gender only included male, female, or unknown. So there is another category, and that was just a complete oversight. And we didn't realize that it was exclusive last year. So sometimes you may not even have that information. I understand sometimes you don't know the demographics of the individuals that you're serving, or for confidentiality, you're not recording that. So you can put unknown for any individuals that you don't have that information for. The next form, coordination and accessibility, is asking about who do you coordinate with. So this says, how many collaborative partners do you have? I believe it allows you to have up to 15. If you work with more than 15 people that are instrumental in your programming, then I would say try to prioritize it to the top 15. These are people who, it's not necessarily, oh, well, they brought me a donation once this year, or we took some clients to a trip out and we took them to we took them to the pumpkin patch or something. You wouldn't include things like that. These are organizations that are instrumental in your programming. So if they are providing some sort of direct resource to you, if they are coming in and doing some sort of additional activity regularly with your clients, if they are partnering with you in some major way, that's who I would put on here. So you're going to list the name of the partner. There are some general checkboxes about the types of roles that they might have. You can describe other, and then a couple of questions. How does the partnership benefit your program? And explain any agreements that are in place. So you're going to go through and do that for every partner that you have. And again, this is a way for us to just be able to see who else you're working with in the community. We want to try to make sure that we're not overfunding duplicative services, but that we are also making sure that we are strengthening the network in Licking County. I would say that's one thing that we do really well here is collaborate with everyone and kind of stay in the loop of who's doing what and who can help out where. So that's just a way for us to keep track of that. And the next form, success stories. So here's where you're going to provide some success stories from your clients. There's another one too that asks to provide a volunteer success story. Again, these are very, very critical in our fundraising efforts and in our marketing, because ultimately, when we're talking about the United Way of Licking County, we're talking about our funded partners. We're talking about the work that you're doing and the way that you are improving lives here in Licking County. And so in order for us to do that, we want to be able to tell some specific examples of how you've accomplished that in your programs. So we do ask for some testimonials. And these are where the release comes in. So there is a promotional release that will be on our website that you can download. Any people who you identify in these stories, we do need a promotional release for them. If for confidentiality reasons, you either do not know the person's name or you aren't able to share the name, then you can change names. If you do change names, if you wouldn't mind just saying that the name has been changed so that we don't expect a promotional release. Because if we don't have one, we're not going to end up using that story. But if it's a great story, we'd like to be able to use it. So if you do change names, if you could just say that the names were changed so that we know that we don't need to get a promotional release. But anybody that you do include in your stories, we do need that release for. All right, funding sources. So you're going to put in here where your funding comes from your program, so that we can see where else are you getting funding from. Like I said earlier, the United Way, our Community Impact Committee is not going to want to make a decision to fund you 100%. So we'd like to see where your other funding is coming from. So right here, you would say add new funding source. You can put in the source name, the amount, and the status. So what that means is this ongoing funding? Is this permanent funding? Is this temporary funding? Is this funding for just a short-term project? You can identify that information and put it in whatever's relevant to that funding source. Program budget narratives. Much like your organization budget, we ask you to upload a program budget. And then there are some specific questions related to that budget. Please provide any significant changes. Describe the extent to which this program offers services outside of Licking County, if it does. Does receipt of UWLC funding qualify your program to receive additional grant funding? So if you're able to leverage funding that you get from United Way to get other funding, so if someone wants to see that you've got a certain dollar amount of funding or a certain percentage of your budget is already funded in order to receive funding from them, and that happens to be United Way money, then explain that to us. If that applies to you. Describe any successes that you've experienced by the program this year. So if there's any major triumphs that you'd like to share, that's your opportunity to do that there. And logic model. So this section is where you are stating the outcomes of your program. So there are two, it's broken down, and you'll see in the instructions here, you'll use this form to provide the outputs to be achieved by the program based on the listing of goals and objectives below, as well as your success with these objectives in the current and previous years. To begin, select a new outcome under the section titled Community Outcomes and choose an appropriate outcome for your program. Hovering over each choice will show a list of measurable objectives included in each. You may add additional outcomes until all have been selected, or you may choose as few as one. To describe any outcomes you have measured that are not included in the predefined list, select Create a New Program Defined Outcome under the section titled Program Defined Outcomes. So in this Community Outcomes section, if you click on Select a New Outcome, there are 3 outcomes to choose from. These are pretty general, and if you hover over each one, it will show you what essentially what the outputs are that have helped you achieve that outcome. Now, I will say, if none of these really apply to your program, then there is an area for you to identify what your program specific outcomes are, and what the data is to support that. So you can see coordinating and enhancing services that promote self-sufficiency. The pre-identified objectives include the number that received utility assistance, the number that received food, number that received emergency shelter and housing, disaster relief. The list goes on. Increasing opportunities for children, youth, and families to thrive. There are objectives such as the number that have increased awareness and encouraging use of available community resources, the number that have increased accessibility to quality childcare and early learning experiences, number that have improved physical health, development, and well-being, and a few others. And then the final one is promoting healthy communities that effectively address addiction, child abuse and neglect, domestic violence, and mental health. So you can see some of those objectives. The number that have increased awareness and access to resources that keep personal relationships safe and healthy. the number that have increased awareness and access to mental health care, addiction and recovery services. So if there are some that are that are relative to your program, you can select it, save my work and continue. So then you will choose what are those outputs that you are measuring. Then there are some additional questions. So for the upcoming year, how are you going to measure the outcomes or results? Describe how individuals in the measurement sample are selected and your process for collecting, inputting, and reporting outcome data, and the time frame for which outcomes are measured during the funding cycle. The program doesn't measure every individual. Provide the number of individuals who comprise the measurement sample. What's the standard used to determine the sample size? If your national organization mandates a sample size, provide this information. And then there are a few other questions. Provide the name and description of the instrument used to measure the outcome indicators and the evidence that this process measurement tool is valid. And then there is a section in the attachments that will ask you to include the validation tool. Is it evidence-based? If not, why was this tool selected? Describe your program improvement plans to address outcomes that were not achieved. If objectives were not met, what is your corrective action plan? And then you're going to identify the actual numbers of individuals that relate to that objective measure. So you may have, and this was something that we heard from a few of you last year that was sort of skewing the information. It used to ask for your total number of clients and then the total number of clients achieving the objective. However, it was a little confusing because your total number of clients may not have been eligible or even applicable for these objectives. So you'll notice this year it says total number of clients sampled. So that means anybody who either received the opportunity to receive a utility assistance or who was measured with the specific measurement tool that you're using to provide this data, whatever your sample size is. And then the total number of clients achieving the objective. So then it will give a percentage of that. So hopefully with that change this year, it gives a little bit more of an actual look at the success of each of those outputs based on the clients that were eligible for those. And then there is a section for program defined outcomes. So if you measure anything that is different than what's in those, or something, if your program really doesn't apply to what those outputs were, then you're able to fill that in here and kind of describe that. And does anybody have any questions over that? That's probably the most confusing part of this application, just because it is a little bit tedious with the information that's there and the measurements. So if you have any questions, you're welcome to speak up. If not, you can also email me or give me a call, and I'd be happy to help you with that. So then there are some program attachments. There are quite a few less than what there are for the organization. So here we ask that you upload some success story photos. If you aren't able to provide photos of the individuals and success stories, then you're welcome to provide either a stock image, or something that I recommend is you can show a photo of the, if it happened at your office, maybe you've got a picture of your building, a picture of your office where you would like to upload that. Whatever you can think of that's relevant if you're not able to provide a photo of that individual. And again, we do respect the confidentiality of your clients. We don't want anybody to be put into danger or compromise their sense of safety or security. So please don't force someone into providing a photo. There are other photos that you can provide. You will upload validation tools relating to your measurement instruments. UWLC promotional release. Again, this is downloaded from our website. So anybody that you use in your success stories, we will need a promotional release for. You'll upload your program budget. And then there's sections for optional attachments. So if there's anything else that you want us to have, if there's anything that you really feel you need to explain in depth and there's maybe not a section for it in the program or in the application, you can write that out and upload it in the optional attachment. And maybe there's some sort of a really amazing award that you received or a really great article that was written about your program or something, and you just would like for the committee to know about it. You're welcome to upload that there. That really is sort of just sort of a section where you can put whatever you'd like. So then once you've done that, if all of these were submitted and complete, then it would say ready to submit. This little arrow would shift over here, and then I would be able to submit my application. It will not let you submit if you don't have every form completed. And again, you also have to have at least one program associated with your application in order to be able to submit. Again, the funding is given to specific programs, not your agency as a whole. So we do need those program applications filled out. And as far as the actual application, that's about it. I know we went through it really quickly. Once you start to get into it, obviously there's a little bit more to it, but that is every form. Again, this entirely online process, I know it can seem daunting, but for those people who have been through this process many times, I've heard a lot of feedback that they enjoy the online process and that it makes it a little bit easier. If you apply during the days of paper and Excel spreadsheets and all of that, it was a lot to manage. So hopefully this makes it a little bit easier on everybody. So just a few things, and actually I'm going to go ahead and bring it back so that we can see everybody here. Just a few reminders. Again, the grant does open on this Monday, June 6th. You will have a full 4 weeks in order to complete that. Grants are due on, or a full 4 business weeks, I should say. Grants are due on July 1st, and then we will have the summer in order to do the site visits, to the evaluations, and then you should hear a decision in the fall, either hopefully October or November. Any of the payments, should you be given an award, they will be sent to you via ACH, and coming around the middle of every month throughout 2023. And I did just get a question, is it current program budget or projected program budget for fiscal year 2023? You can put your current budget. You may not have a projected budget for fiscal year 2023. If you do have a projected budget, you're welcome to put that. I would actually probably put that in the other attachments though, so that we can see what your current budget is for your program. If you are a new program and you don't have a current budget, then you would be putting your projected budget. And then Sylvia says, can we use split fiscal year instead of calendar year? Absolutely. Whatever fiscal year you're on, that would apply to you specifically. So whatever your budget is for, if it's for a split year or a calendar year, you can provide whatever you've got. Any other questions? That's really it for my presentation. So it's totally up to you guys, whatever questions you have. If there's anything that I didn't discuss, or if there's anything that you still are unsure of, I definitely would invite you to ask me that now. Or like I said, you can reach out via phone or email. Eva Marie, did you have a question? You can unmute yourself if you'd like.
Thanks, Cory. Our program has not met since last summer. We don't have any new stories to tell. What should we do?
You know, if you need to recycle some stories, that's fine. If you have any other stories from individuals last year that you weren't able to share, you can do that. If you really want to, if you wanted to reach out to people and say, hey, do you have some memories now? You know, that might be something you could do. But really, you know, if your program hasn't met again since the last grant cycle, I wouldn't stress about it too much. You know, obviously it did shift in the year, so we're not a full year since the last application. I think it's been about 9 months. So there's nothing you can do about that. So I wouldn't let it stress you out. But if you do have other stories that you can provide, feel free to share those. But if not, you can recycle.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Cory,
mm-hmm.
It looks like it's pretty much the same application questions as last year. So
yeah.
If I want to get a refresher and get ready for that to go live on June 6th, I can just look back over what I had last year and.
Yeah, so you should be able to see what your previous applications. I'm going to go ahead and actually share my screen again because I'll show you where you can find that. So along this side, and can everybody see the EC Impact screen again? Okay. So along the side, right here, where all of your applications are, it says my previous applications at the bottom. So then you can go and click on what those applications were. Of course, this is just a test profile, so it doesn't have a full complete application on here, but you can go through and then see, and it will have whatever your answers were on the previous application. If for whatever reason you're not able to access that and you applied last year, you can also reach out to me and I would be happy to just send you your application packet. Whatever works is fine with me, but you can access those through EC Impact. Any other questions? I will say also my phone number and email address should be at the bottom of every page on EC Impact. It's also on our United Way website on the Community Impact page. So if at any time you run into a snag, if you have a question, if you're unsure of something, or if you're confused about something, please feel free to reach out to me. I may not always have the answer, but I can at least try to find it for you or help you figure out if there's something that's happening. Every once in a while, we do have some sort of technical issue. So if that happens, please don't let it stress you out. My goal is to make this process as easy as possible for all of you. We're all busy and stressed just by nature of working in nonprofit or working in social services, working in whatever field you're in. We tend to bear the brunt of whatever's happening in the world. And so I understand how stressed you are just as a normal level. So I don't want to add to that in any way. Filling out a grant can also be stressful. So if there's anything I can do to relieve that stress, please feel free to reach out to me and I will be happy to try my best. Another question?
I got a question. I don't know how to do this.
Right.
If you want to type it, you can also type in the chat box. You should see chat on the bottom. You're welcome to type a message there too, and I can answer your question that way.
Yeah.
Chris, if you want to ask a question, we can hear you.
Oh, you can?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I went to city council to ask for COVID dollars, really not for myself, but pretty much to healthcare, to help out with the homeless that are, struggling with COVID. And the only thing they told me that they had was rental assistance. Like if you were behind two months rent. Is there a way around that? I mean, to where dollars could go to healthcare to provide proper treatment?
So if you're, were you requesting like for a program that you're with, like an organization, or you're meeting, you would like to provide for individuals?
I kind of used my own self when I went to city council. I have health insurance, some people don't. So really, I don't know where. It's really going back into the communities. Let's say LMH.
Oh, you're breaking up a little bit. So for this grant, if you are with an organization or with a program that's hoping to be able to provide some sort of that assistance to individuals, then that's something that you would apply for as your organization. This grant, unfortunately, is not available to just individuals to apply for. So if it's just an individual who's needing assistance, if let's say they need assistance with healthcare from COVID or something, that individual wouldn't be able to provide or apply for assistance through this grant process. But if you are, like I said, with an organization that's hoping to provide assistance to individuals, then you would just apply with your program as that being your program goal. However, in this meeting, there is a great number of individuals who do work with organizations who can provide assistance to individuals. So, if you want to reach out to me or if you want to email me, I'd be happy to send you contact information for people who might be able to get some help for some of those individuals that you're talking about. Definitely feel free to send me an email, and I can get you hooked up with some of those other individuals at some of those programs if you'd like.
Because it's even with insurance, it's really expensive.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, if you would like to, I can send you an email, send you some resources that you can share, or you can, if you know people who could benefit from them, I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's all I had.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Donna, you have a question?
Yes, I know pre-COVID, of course, there's been a lot of stuff pre-COVID, but there were times when the United Way had a lot of their funded partners and things that we could kind of come in. There were like finger foods or whatever anyway, so people could converse with one another and kind of catch up. And I would like to see a time when we can do that, because it's been like over 2 years, and try to catch a time when COVID numbers aren't crazy or whatever, so that we can have those conversations. And I think we could streamline our services, which we've done very well considering what we've been in. But I just think it would be, I don't know, just does anybody else agree with that? Just having a little time for back and forth conversation about our programs.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion, Donna. And we've been talking to, as we've started to be able to get come back in person with like the CPC quarterly events. How can we expand on those? Maybe provide some more opportunities for funded partners to get together, because there really are. We see each other in the community. We're all involved in different things, and we see each other. But it's nice to have a specific time where funded partners can come together and chat about, this is what I'm seeing, or this is what we're doing. This is maybe how we can improve, or also a time for you to tell us, maybe what areas do you need support in? Are there any other things that we could be doing to help support you? So I think that's a great suggestion, Donna. And hopefully it's something that we can build on through our Community Partners Council or even other opportunities to be able to do that. Yeah. So thanks.
I'd like to add to that I think that the agency fairs have always been helpful, not only for the people who come and attend, like if it's families or a workplace that wants to have an agency fair, but usually we had time after we set up where we could go around and visit each other's tables and get to know each other. And it wouldn't be the same kind of conversation that Donna's talking about, but it is a nice opportunity, even if it's just an agency fair for United Way organizations or even other partners included, to go around and visit each other and learn about the services that are offered.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like I said, one of my goals is to build on not just my relationship with the funded partners, and not just United Way's relationship with the funded partners, but to really be able to help facilitate those connections with the funded partners. So I appreciate that, Sylvia. And I think, it is so helpful to really get that sense of what is each other, what are you doing, what services are you providing, so that it doesn't end up being duplicative, but also you're aware of maybe where there are other things that might be able to benefit you and your program. Because we really do, like I said, I think here in Licking County, we do work together so well, and there are so many people who are providing information and services and resources to other programs. And so anytime that we can build on that is beneficial for sure. All right, any last questions? Okay, so with that, I think we're off to the races. This grant application will be available on Monday, so you will be able to go in, log in to your EC Impact profile if you've already got one, and you will be able to request grant application on the left-hand side to begin the Community Impact 2023 grant. If you've never applied before, again, you can sign up for an account. The links to all of that is available on our website, unitedwaylc.org, on the Community Impact tab. And I'm excited to partner with all of you again. Like I said, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I will try my best to help you in whatever way I can. And really just want to say thank you to all of you for the work that you're doing in the community. Thank you for your dedication to improving the lives in Licking County. It really does take a village. It takes a county to do what you all do. And I just really am very thankful for the work that you do to improve life here in Licking County. So thank you for that. Thank you for the opportunity for partnering with you, and good luck to everyone. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thanks, Cory.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.